Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Terry Shores, and I'm the Executive Director of the Northern California chapter. Welcome to our second Site to Do Business webinar. I see a number of people have already joined us, and I'm sure that there will be a few more to come. So let's get this show on the road. Our speaker today is Carol Campbell, who is Director of Operations for CCIM Technologies. For 14 years, she's worn many hats, combining sales, marketing, business development, all aspects of Site to Do Business. She has 28 years of account management and marketing and training expertise in real estate. And she's also involved in the development and delivery of the curriculum for courses designed for real estate technology products that are included with Site to Do Business. So Carol began her career in 1986 as Vice President of Marketing for Sterling Properties. She has a broker's license. So like many of you, she has a grounds up background. She served on the boards of the Rape Crisis Center, Young Men's Service League, the Dallas Gladney Auxiliary. I'm not quite sure what that is. She's married to her husband, Bill, for 34 years. Has 2 grown children, and most importantly, a 7-year-old black lab.
Very true, Terry.
In the conversation. So, Carol, thanks for joining us once again. We've seen you several times in the past, and we're always glad to have you come back, and look forward to a good session today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the great introduction. And yes, you're right about the black lab. She's especially for those of you out there who are empty nesters. You know how, if you're an animal lover, you know how much more important those animals become once you don't have children to take care of any longer. So thank you so much for having me today. I look forward to spending a little bit of time in Site to Do Business, and specifically, we're going to talk more today about ArcGIS Online. I like for my sessions to be pretty informal. So if you have questions along the way, I know typically we will on formal presentations, we'll save question and answer till the end, but please feel free to jump in at any point. And Terry, will you be able to watch for questions that come in, and you can feel free to interrupt me? Will that work?
Yes, I will.
Okay. All right. So you are seeing my screen, correct, Terry? Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we see your screen.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure before we get started. So as Terry said, I've been doing this with Site to Do Business for quite some time now, where we, of course, we're always working on things behind the scenes to hopefully bring some new things to introduce you to. And we thought we would have some things this last year. It didn't quite work out. You know, 2020 dealt us all kinds of surprises, and some of the things that we were working on got not canceled, just a little delayed. So stay in touch, watch those emails, because we're hoping that we will have some exciting things for you this year. So what you're seeing now is my screen, STDB.com. A lot of you may still go through CCIM to get to Site to Do Business, but you don't have to do that. You would go directly to stdb.com or sitetodobusiness.com, whichever you prefer. And if you haven't logged in a while, let me just go through this. A couple of things. Number one, if you have not renewed your CCIM membership, if you are a CCIM candidate or designee, you have until January 31st to ensure that you don't lose or that your access to Site to Do Business is not interrupted. If you are a CCIM member, I'm going to save you a step here because a lot of people are entering their credentials here and then clicking on CCIM member login. But if you will click on CCIM member login and then enter your credentials, then you won't have to do that twice. All right. Now I'm going to go back because I'm logging into a different account. I'm actually logging into a non-CCIM account right now. So I would use the subscriber login. When you get to that CCIM member login page, you would use the exact same credentials that you're using to get into CCIM.com. So if you can get into CCIM.com, you should be able to log into Site to Do Business as well. A couple of things I want to call your attention to. We've had a little bit of a change here with the look and feel of the dashboard, which is what we call it. This is where the tools reside. And forgive me, Terry, if I'm repeating some things that were covered in the last session. I promise I'll do this briefly, but we just want to make sure, in case there are some people here that weren't at your last webinar, that they're aware of some of the things that we've already done. One of the things we have announced recently is our concierge service. So if you are the kind of person who isn't really technology savvy, it overwhelms you to come in and learn these tools, and you need help, you want help in getting things done, then we actually have 3 different teams you can choose from. That can help you do a lot of different things with regard to your real estate business. So if you just need something from Site to Do Business, from Business Analyst, or a prospecting list from Database USA, any of those types of things, we can do those for you, the Site to Do Business team. There will be a charge. There is a charge, but we've tried to price this at a very reasonable level. So, you know, the objective here is to continue adding value, not to penny pinch our members. If you want to see examples of some of the things that we can do in the concierge, there's an example page. Now, we've partnered with a couple of other companies that can offer some really great things that we can't do, because as much as we would like to think we can do it all, we can't. So Earth Vision is actually a company that's here in Dallas, just coincidentally, and they do offering memorandums, marketing brochures. They can do some more sophisticated mapping than we do. Cannibalization studies. I don't know why that got me this morning. I normally say that just fine. Retail void analysis. They do some really interesting things there. And then also a company called Videoms. And I would encourage you to come look at some of these videos there. If you're marketing a property or perhaps a shopping center or an office building, whatever that is, they are doing what they're calling them offering memorandums through a lot of things that are in what we might consider an offering memorandum that aren't in the videos. But they're beautiful videos and of a property or of yourself if you wanted to create a marketing piece about yourself. So just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that concierge service and the 3 different levels of support that you can get there. All right, so the one other thing that we always have to talk about is the Learning Center. If you have not visited the Learning Center, please know that this is a great place for you to get help on what's new. Also, any upcoming webinars. Let's see, we've been scheduling them. I'm not sure they're posted here. They're not posted here yet, but Alexis is scheduling them right now. So you should see some upcoming webinars on here very soon. Probably the page that gets most used on the Learning Center is the How Do I page. These are 1 to 5 minute videos on all of these different topics and workflows within Business Analyst and ArcGIS Online. Please forgive me. I'm not sure if you can hear. My husband's in another room we have 2 doors closed, but he's evidently having an allergy attack because he's sneezing like crazy. So if you hear that, everyone's okay. Also, a very important page in the Learning Center is our resources page. Here you'll find methodology statements for all of the Esri data. So if you want to understand how they come up with consumer spending or demographic updates or any of those kinds of things, the methodology statement is here. Also, if you want to understand the credit system that the Esri tools use, then you would also have access to that. We also have a zone, legend and an explanation for the zone determination. Okay. All right. So that's all of my introductory comments. And now I am going to go first, before we go into ArcGIS Online, I'm going to go first into Business Analyst. Back up here because I want you to understand that the Esri tools, right now we have Business Analyst, ArcGIS Online, and Living Atlas. I'm going to show you how you can get to Living Atlas, and we'll talk a little bit about it. ArcGIS is the center of Esri's universe, so everything kind of stems from ArcGIS. And there are different platforms that use ArcGIS. There's ArcGIS Online, there's ArcGIS Pro, there's all of the different tools or other platforms that Esri creates all come back to ArcGIS Online, or ArcGIS. So this is the center of Esri's universe. But Business Analyst communicates with ArcGIS Online, as does Living Atlas. So let's start in Business Analyst and talk about how these 2 tools communicate with one another. Hopefully you're pretty familiar with Business Analyst. This is where most people go to access demographic information, consumer spending, create business lists, or at least create maps with businesses on them. So let's do something. I'm just going to put something on the map that I have already created. So here is, here's some shape files or some submarkets that I have created. And I'm going to turn those on in my Business Analyst account. And hopefully that's not going to be fussy today. That should be going very quickly. So this is something that I've done previously, and I have in my project within Business Analyst, and I am just turning it on so I can see it on my map. And then what we're going to do is we're going to share this into our ArcGIS Online account. So while that's still working, let me tell you this. Over on the right-hand side, the vertical tools that you see over here, you should be very familiar with the X because that's how you clear your map. But there's a tool right underneath that is, it looks like a piece of paper with an arrow, kind of a little wonky arrow. Okay, so these submarkets have now loaded. And if you see these, then I can now share this map or anything else that I have created with my own account in ArcGIS. So I'm going to give this an abbreviated, is today the 20th? I believe that's right. So I'm just going to call this submarkets. We will, and then I'm going to share this with myself. So all I'm doing is sending this to ArcGIS Online so that when I go to ArcGIS Online, I could pull it up and work with it there. All right, so that's all I did. I shared it with myself. And it tells me that now this map has been saved to ArcGIS and it's saved in my content under BA and my maps. right.
Excuse me, Carol.
Yeah.
Jesse Lane has a question.
Sure,
Jesse?
go ahead, Jesse.
Okay.
There we go. Oh, there we are. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Oh,
hear you.
okay. So, you know, when I clicked on business analyst, it took me to a pretty much black screen that said ArcGIS business analyst web and mobile apps wants to access your ArcGIS online account information. And then underneath that, I'm trying to see what the links are.
Okay,
Oh, STB login provider. That's the link. And I
okay.
don't,
All right, if you click on that, that should take you to a login page. If that doesn't work, we may need to have you reach out to Alexis and and you could do that even while we're on the webinar.
Okay. I
And
do
she,
see the, yeah, but yeah, that's interesting because it takes me to that same page where you have subscriber login versus CCIM member login. But
okay,
I'll go ahead and do that. Seems
Yeah.
like I've done that twice now then.
yeah.
Interesting.
So there may be a permission or something that isn't checked right in your account. So Alexis should be able to take care of that
Oh.
really quickly.
Oh, okay. And how would I reach Alexis?
Support@stdb.com.
Oh, okay. All right, great. Thanks a lot.
Uh-huh. Okay, so we created this map, or really just brought it back. I'd created it previously. We've shared it now to ArcGIS Online. So when we get into ArcGIS Online, we will be able to find that. So I'm going to clear my map. Once again, if you had businesses loaded, if you had a color-coded map, anything that you've done on your map in Business Analyst, then you can send to ArcGIS. On the flip side, if you wanted to bring data from ArcGIS Online into Business Analyst, you can do that as well. So right up here where it says Add Data, you can import your file, you can do some custom data setup, but if you go into Web Maps and Layers, what you're doing, what were those things called? Dumbwaiters? It's really not a very nice name, but dumbwaiters would be something where you could pull something from one area to another. And basically what you're doing when you go into Add Data is you are looking at what's available in ArcGIS Online that you could then pull in. So let's, and you'll see that you can just search in your own content. You can search in groups, and we'll talk about groups here in a moment. All of our organizations, so anything that anyone has posted in CCIM or as a Site2 Business subscriber, but has shared with the organization. You can create things and keep it private, or you can share it. You're in complete control of that. Or anything that anyone outside of CCIM has created and posted in ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS, but has made public, you can also access that. There are some additional layers you can subscribe to. We won't go into that. And you can also look at this as recently added. So you can see here that those submarkets are something that's fairly recent. One of the things that I have added not too long ago was the USA railroads. So I can pull that back into my business analyst, and that takes a minute to load. Let me zoom in a little bit. But any data that's out there in ArcGIS Online, now you can see this loading. These are all of the railroads within the US. And so if you're working on an industrial property, you can use that data to help you assess if there is rail close by. All right, so that's just one example of something that we could pull into Business Analyst. So I'm going to go do one. And if you've been in my class in person, and I suspect some of you have, this is a map that I always bring in because it's kind of an interesting map, and it's something that people tend to go back to. So I changed from looking just in my content now to looking in all of ArcGIS Online. And I'm going to search for.
Carol, I have a question.
Sure.
I'm Aziz, and I went to business analyst, and I have only 3 tabs at the options: home, maps, and reports. And when I go to maps, there's just my projects showing up there. That's it. No other tabs. Those are the only 3 tabs.
Yeah, and that's it, and that's right. So, okay, so let me close this, because if you look at,
So where get these sub tabs? I don't have sub tabs that you have, like case studies, add data. I don't have those options.
Okay, have you gone into map? Go into map.
Yeah, if I click map, then nothing shows up. That's it. Except on the bottom, I have projects. Underneath that, the only projects.
Have you created a project?
The previous projects, yeah.
Huh.
There's a blue line, but there's nothing there. Maybe they are not
Nothing
showing
here.
up or something.
What browser are you using?
Explore. Sorry, yeah. What is it called?
Are you using Edge? You're going to have better success if you use Chrome. I will tell you that. Google Chrome.
It is Chrome. Yeah, I'm using Chrome. Yes, I'm using Chrome.
Okay. Gosh, without seeing your screen, it's hard for me to tell.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll do it offline another time. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So going back to adding data, we're going to do web maps and layers. And then, as I said, this is something that you've seen before if you've been in my class, the world traffic map. So this is a map, and unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, a lot of people have decided they like this map. And so now there are many versions of it. They're basically the same map, but some of them you may have an easier time adding to your business analyst map. But you can see as I go through here, there's several different versions. If you get to one that is actually from Esri, then that may be the one that you want to add. Okay, I'm gonna add one so you can see what this map looks like. So it's called World Traffic Map, and it actually took me to a different country. Let's go back to California here. All right, so here it is. So if we zoomed in, for example, to Sacramento, then here's what the traffic probably looks like in that area right now. This is basically like what we have on our phones. You can see where there may be some slower traffic, where there may be some stopped traffic, but this is updated every 5 minutes. Worldwide. So that's one map that you can go and you can pull in from ArcGIS Online. But just know that there are many, many, many more. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of maps that are within ArcGIS Online that you can then go and pull into business analysts.
Hi, Aziz.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Somebody needs to mute themselves.
So, do you know
Terry, you may need to
what
mute them.
their issue is right now? What are they looking at? I mean, in terms of, I know it's the price, right?
We had another chat.
Terry, can you mute
Okay.
them?
I thought it was positive.
Uh-huh.
They're a little bit of slow movers. That's one thing.
Okay.
So that's my frustration too. Just like they're just slow to make decisions.
I'm sorry, but I don't have the ability to mute anyone.
I think one of it is like just this. There's a little bit of a lack of information from their perspective. Like they're still in the camp of like, oh, we've only seen one unit. You know.
I'm sure this person does
like,
not really want us listening to their business conversation.
Hey, that's what's going on in the market. We can't show you the building.
Right.
And I'm sorry, we just have a difference of opinion on that.
I
Like
see.
I told them, I said, I only take offers subject to inspection. Sometimes I don't show any units,
Right.
right? So we just have a difference of opinion on that.
Harry, are you there?
They're a little worried on how much upside is in the deal for that.
Right.
So that's something I'm working on. And I made them a model and kind of like made them understand, how much rental upside is there.
Yeah.
I'm modeling 2250 for the one bedrooms.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts are there. But, I like to think I'm maybe conservative on the 2250.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think the 2250 on these,
Aziz,
you won't get them
is that
right
you?
now. As soon as vaccines and stuff start going in, then you should be able to get it.
I'm saying 2250 if it's like remodeled, not like unit 8. Like if it's a remodeled, nicely done unit.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
I think you can go. I think we can get 2250 for that area. Right.
Yeah.
And if there's an opportunity to add laundry in the units, I don't know if there is, but if there's an opportunity, then I think you could bump it to 2500.
Right. Yeah.
If it's a nicely done unit.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at the upside. The call yesterday, I had a positive call with them.
Harry, are you back?
Yesterday. It's two partners.
Can you hold on for a second, please?
Sure.
This guy has called me 5 times. Hold on.
No problem.
Aziz?
Hello,
Aziz, are you
Aziz?
there?
Yes, Peter.
Your conversation is live on the presentation.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Mute your screen.
I can't mute it. Somebody has to mute it. I can't mute it. You know what I mean?
You can.
I think Terry has to mute it.
No, you can mute it.
How? I don't see any option here. Let me leave the room. Okay, I'll leave the room.
Okay. All right. We will continue on. Sorry, but I didn't want to try to talk over that. And if you're recording this, Terry, when you send this to me, or if you want to send it to me, I'll be sure and edit that portion out. All right. So here's how you can go in from Business Analyst into ArcGIS Online and access maps. All right. So hopefully we have a pretty good understanding of that. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Site to Do Business to the dashboard. So let's go into the dashboard and instead of going into Business Analyst this time, we are going to go into ArcGIS Online. Now, some of you may have an experience, and we'll see what's going to happen with me. But sometimes when you click on ArcGIS Online, it actually takes you back into Business Analyst. If that happens, you may need to clear your cache on your computer, or you can come up here and open a new incognito window. This may blow some of your minds. I don't know how, if you're not very techie, but you can open a new incognito window and log in again, and it will open correctly. It's something that's, I don't know why that happens. The technical people have been working on it for some time, but if it happens to you, just know that that is the workaround. All right, so once you get into ArcGIS Online, here's what you should see. When you first log in, you should see you're on the home page, and you'll see this gallery here that has some things like the certified economic opportunity zones or designated opportunity zones. There is a traffic count map here that you can use. You can actually access Business Analyst from inside ArcGIS Online, because as I said, it feeds off of ArcGIS Online. We have the Microsoft building footprints in the entire United States that you can access here. We have some maps for Puerto Rico that were added specifically for our Puerto Rico members. And then we have this job growth map, and I already have this opened up because sometimes it takes a little while for it to load, but this is something that Esri created for us some time back. And we're actually in the process of trying to get this updated because it's most recent to 2018, but you can do this by county or by MSA within ArcGIS Online, and you can choose the different sectors that you want to look at, and then change the year again. And then what it will do is it will load showing you, and this is based on Labor Bureau statistic. Let me do California here, 2018, finance and insurance. And then what it's going to do is it's going to start loading any place where you see green. That would indicate that there has been growth in that sector or subsector within 2018. If you see red, then that would indicate that there has been a decline in jobs in that particular sector in that area. So this is just one of the maps or one of the workflows that is available to you within ArcGIS Online. All right, so next I'm going to go to the map in ArcGIS. So you can see, once you get started working on something, what that might look like. So here's what the map looks like in ArcGIS Online, and you can see it's similar to what you see in Business Analyst. I'm going back and forth here so you can see the two sites and kind of start understanding the difference. So they look similar, and yet their functionalities are very different, because in Business Analyst, you have all of these workflows that are designed to help you get through the process. When you get into ArcGIS Online, which is where we are now, you don't see those same workflows. However, you can still do a lot of very interesting things in here. And we'll talk in a moment about adding data. You can certainly change your base map just like you can in Business Analyst. You can do a lot of different types of analysis, and we'll talk about some of those here in just a moment. Once you've created something in ArcGIS Online, you're going to want to save it. You're going to be able to share it. If you wanted to share just with a specific person, if you want to share publicly, you can print out things. You can do some measurements here. There are a lot of different things that you can do. So let's get started by, hang on, I'm going to save this map because I don't want to lose it. Because I've already preloaded a lot of layers in here. Okay, so we'll save this map, and then I'll show you where you can go find it. All right, so if I come up here to home, up here in the upper left corner, we've already talked about the gallery. We probably won't spend any time on seeing our notebook today. We will talk a little bit about groups. So let's say you wanted to have a Northern California group that you could share things with in ArcGIS Online. If you go to groups, you can see all of the different groups that I belong to. And if I wanted to create a new group, then up here, I would say create group, and I could give it a name, and then I could invite the people that I wanted to be able to see that data. So when you set up your groups, you can set it to where only group members can see, or anyone in the organization, or everyone in ArcGIS Online world. You can also limit who contributes to the group. And what items in the group members can update. So you have a lot of control here as you start creating your group, who can see what you want to share. All right. So I'm going to go back now to I'm going to go back to the map where we were just a moment ago. And so we've talked about groups. Now I'm going to go into my content so you can see what it looks like when you save things with an ArcGIS Online. And then we're going to start actually creating a few things. So you see the web map that I had, the map that I had up that I wanted to save because it had a whole lot of layers in it. Excuse me. That is right here. So if I go to my account or all my content, you'll see that the Northern Cali webinar is in both of those. If I had created a group, if I had created that Northern California group, then it might have shown up in that particular folder. So I do have a group called Atlanta Fall Meetings that we did back in 2017. So here are the things that I saved inside that group, and anyone who is a member of that group could also access that data. And I'm really bad. Oh, if you wanted to see reports even that you've run in Business Analyst, you can look at those in here. So the last report that I ran in this account appears to be in 2019. I use various accounts. So here we go. That's more like it. So my reports, ordered reports, January 20th of 21. So I created a housing profile. So you can even access those reports that you run in Business Analyst inside ArcGIS Online. Okay, so for now, I'm going to go back to all my content. And before we actually, I'm going to open this. This is something that I've already created. And you'll see once you have something in your content that you bring to open, there are several different things you can do. You can open it in the map viewer, which is what we're going to do. You can open it in ArcGIS desktop. Our members don't have access to desktop. So that won't do anything for you. You can create a presentation. You can create a web app. We'll do that here in just a few moments. You can change your sharing. Or you can get down into the metadata. So in this case, we're going to just open the map viewer. And we'll give that a moment to populate. Okay, so here are all of the layers that I had that I will work with here in a moment. But let's start by just seeing what is available in ArcGIS Online for you to be able to access. There's so much data in here. You can access a lot of it from Business Analyst, but it's really easier to come straight into ArcGIS Online to be able to access some of this data. So I'm going to zoom in on my map to Northern California. And then I want to go in here and add, I'm going to search for layers. And once again, I can search just in my content, or I can search in all of ArcGIS Online. which is what I want to do. Now, as you go through here, you'll see a lot of interesting maps right off the bat. And some of them are very beautiful maps, but they may not be exactly what you're looking for. So you can actually search ArcGIS Online for anything that you wanted. So let's say you wanted to look at something based on unemployment. You can just type in unemployment there. And search. And here is a map that we can put on our map. And you'll see as you click on it, then you can add it to the map that you have showing.
Excuse me, Carol.
Sure.
Serena has a question about maps. Serena?
Okay.
Go ahead, Serena. Okay, I guess not.
Okay, we'll keep going, and then if she gets unmuted, we'll stop.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I found the unmute.
Okay.
I also had the same problem in maps where I didn't have all the menu options, just only seeing my own projects.
In Business Analyst?
Yes.
That is so weird. So, okay, so let me just make sure what you guys are seeing. Is this what you're seeing?
Yes.
Okay, then all you have to do is click right here on maps.
I think, let me see. Okay, but then the blue band on maps is just blank. It doesn't have all the buttons.
Huh. That is so weird. You know what? Let's circle back at the end of this when we're through this webinar. I'm gonna let you show your screen so I can see what's happening.
Okay.
So we can make sure nothing crazy is going on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So we're back in ArcGIS Online. And I just added the Bureau of Labor Statistics monthly unemployment data. So this is where this gets interesting, because in Business Analyst, all of the data is updated annually. Some of it quarterly, but most of it annually. But if you come into ArcGIS Online, you can find some things that may be updated more frequently. So I'm just clicking on a county here, and from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, this is as recent as November. And San Joaquin, hopefully I said that right. So in that month, there were 28,900 plus people that were unemployed, giving it an unemployment rate of 9%. In comparison, the national unemployment rate was 6.4. So you could come in and load all of these different counties to see. It appears Alameda was a little bit more in line with the national average. But this is a data source that you have available to you where you can track something that's a little more recent than the annual data that is within Business Analyst. So let's look for a different type of information. Let's hang on. So I want to remove that from the map. And let's now look for something that would be specific to one of your cities or areas. So let's look for, I think it was San Francisco where I found some good stuff. San Francisco. If I start looking through here, if I just type in San Francisco, you'll see as I scroll through, there's a lot of different information that you can access. So let's say I specifically was looking for San Francisco zoning. then you can scroll through and see, okay, so here's something that is San Francisco zoning. This was done in August of 2019. There's cannabis retail permitted. So you see there that there's a lot of maps. Here's City of San Francisco zoning districts that was updated in October. Now, here's one thing that I want to advise you about when it comes to using maps within ArcGIS Online. These are maps that anyone could have created. It could be Carol, excuse me, that's playing around on a Saturday night while my husband watches basketball. And I create a map and I accidentally share it publicly. So you want to make sure when you come in here, I mean, this looks like this is Cynthia Wong with Avison and Young. So this may be an authoritative map. It may not be, but you may want to go check out, and you can click here to learn a little bit about the profile of the person who's created that map. If they've added anything, let's see. Okay, so in this case, there isn't anything. But let's say that this was created by San Francisco GIS, then you would feel pretty good that it was an authoritative map and that you could use it. I'm going to go ahead and add this map so you can see what a zoning map might look like. Now, sometimes if you're adding things that have a lot of data in them, it may take a little while for it to load. In this case, it looks like this one's adding pretty quickly. So here's a zoning map where you could click on an area and it will tell you that this is mixed use. We'll see what other kind of information you see on this. On the window that opens, there may be more than one page of information. Residential house to family. And then you can see this is moving as I'm clicking through. So the first one was the mixed use. Then as I move through this, it's actually changing the location to show what the zoning is in that particular area. So zoning data is sometimes found. Let's see, let's try Sacramento. And as you scroll through here, you'll see all kinds of interesting things. It just depends on what you're needing at that particular moment. So that's why I always spend so much time on searching when we're in ArcGIS Online, because there's so many things that are already available to you that you can use. So one of the things that you can do is you can change how this is presented to you by relevance, title, owner. A lot of times I do date modified because I want to make sure that what I'm working with is the most recent data. Now, this was kind of interesting because I tried adding this. This is West Sacramento admin. I tried adding this to my map earlier, and what it did was it opened a whole new access to ArcGIS Online. So, but this may be worth if you work in Sacramento, or if you need information about Sacramento, this might be worth going in and doing this. So let me show you what this looks like. And here's the zoning map, and in this case, you will get some information about this. And I would say this is probably an authoritative map because of how many maps they've produced and the fact that just the title would lead you to believe that this is someone that is with Sacramento. All right, so this did load in my own map. Earlier it did not. It opened a whole new ArcGIS Online. But you can see here, same thing. You can see the outline of the zone changing as I go through each of these windows. All right. You can also look for parcel data. Sometimes parcel data is available. So a lot of information that you can get just by going in here and searching. One other source that I want to discuss with you, and then I'm actually going to do something that we're going to create ourselves in ArcGIS Online. But you do have access to this thing called the Living Atlas. So if you're looking at your map and you want to go add something to it and you want to search the Living Atlas, this is Esri's data, and you can see within, I still have Sacramento loaded here. Homeowners Loan Corporation is something that I guess is in Living Atlas that's specific to Sacramento. But if I go into Living Atlas and let's search something that might be relevant to you, perhaps fire, unfortunately. But some of the things that Esri does and publishes are things like active fires, fire potential, USA current wildfires. So if you want to see where current wildfires are, you can load those. You can do the same thing with hurricanes or even tornadic activity that you can search for in the Living Atlas. So there's a lot of information that's in the Living Atlas that you can bring into ArcGIS Online. And not to confuse you, but I'm going to show you another way you can access the Living Atlas, because that may help you determine what you may want to bring into ArcGIS Online. The Living Atlas is actually a public site. So if you just go to Living Atlas and you want to browse everything that's there, come in. You can change the region where all you see is the US right here, but you see that world traffic map that I was talking about earlier, that's there. Earthquakes, all of these things, a little bit easier to see what's available when you look at it like this, and that's why I always like to show people this. But you can look at all the maps or things that are trending. Base maps, imagery, boundaries, people, which would give you some demographic information, infrastructure, environment. So all of these different categories are included in the Living Atlas. As a matter of fact, this next month or so, we're going to do a webinar just on the Living Atlas, because there's so much information in here, and all of it can be brought into ArcGIS Online. So just know that that's another satellite, if you will, of ArcGIS Online. Okay, so I'm going back in. I hope this isn't confusing you with me jumping around. All right, we're going to go back. Yes.
Yes, Aziz has a couple of questions relating to zoning. Aziz?
Yeah. First of all, I want to apologize to everybody for the last mess up. Yeah, the first question is the zoning data that you have, is it possible to export it as a CSV file, or this is just only as a map format?
In some, it kind of depends on it. It depends on who loaded it and if they gave those permissions.
All right.
Yeah.
And can we search it by zoning code? For example, if I put a zoning code and then see only those properties that match that zoning code on the map, is it possible?
Okay, once again, it depends on how the map has been created. But but hang on, let me turn this one back on the map and just show you how you would how you would determine if those permissions have been given to the map. And this is what makes ArcGIS Online so different than Business Analyst, because in Business Analyst, everything is the same across the board. But in ArcGIS Online, it depends, who created it and what kind of permissions that they get. So you see over here on the left, I've got zoning loaded. So let's just see. So if I wanted to filter
Okay.
zoning description, maybe. Let's see, retail. Okay, so let's see if we can apply that filter. Okay, it appeared that it let us apply the filter, but it's not really showing us anything. But that is how you would determine you could go in and filter and let's try that one more time. I'm going to remove the filter and then we'll try it again. So maybe, do you think I should do zoning or zoning description?
Why don't we see if we can find one of the values, so a valid zoning value, and then we put that value in there.
Yeah.
For zoning, each have zoning description.
All right, let's try that. Let's see. So that's waterfront. Here's industrial. Okay. So let's just try industrial. Okay.
No, this is M2, sorry. The zoning is M-2.
Okay.
That's what it was. So let's search for M-2. Zoning. Let's see.
Yeah, it's not showing me. But that's how you would go.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's how you would go about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions before I move on?
No, I'm going to unmute myself now.
Hey, and it happens to all of us. So, all right. So I want to show you a way that you can actually do some analysis within Business Analyst, or excuse me, ArcGIS Online. It doesn't always have to be you determining what maps you want to use that someone else created. Let me remove a couple of these things off the map. Bureau of Labor Statistics, just so I can clean this up a little bit. All right. So you can do your own types of analysis. And the analysis that I'm going to show you here, I've already done some of this because sometimes these things can take a little bit of time, but I'm going to show you what we are working with. So forgive me, this is an example, not in California. It's an example in the Dallas area. But what we're doing here is we're going to load an existing location of an office, and in the case study that we use this in, it's a research and development office that is looking to relocate. And they want to see the impact of that relocation on, maybe it's just their executive team or maybe all of their employees, from a drive time or from a distance standpoint. So we're going to begin with the existing office on a spreadsheet. Now, when you're working with ArcGIS Online, you want to use a CSV file instead of an Excel spreadsheet. So here's our existing office. We just have a spreadsheet that says name, address, city, state, and zip. That's it. Very simple. Save it as a CSV. Then we also have the same thing with the proposed office. And then I have a list of the research employees. So here are all of the employees. There's 90 of them, okay? And I have both address and I do have latitude and longitude that would, that we could use to map if we wanted to. Once again, name, address, city, state, and zip. Those are the main things you have to have. or name and Latin long. So we have to have something to be able to geocode or to map. All right, so those are on my desktop, and I'm going to show you a couple of different ways you can do this. But this one is kind of fun because we're not wanting to do anything heavy duty with this map later on. So in this case, we can do something as simple as dragging and dropping. So I have my existing office up here. I'm going to drag that and drop it. And then I can expand and say, yes, add that layer. Okay, then I can do the same thing again with the proposed office. I'm going to drag and drop it and add that layer. And then one more, the research employees. I want to put them on the map, so I'm going to drag and drop them as well. All right, so now we have all of these points on the map. And I'm going to say that we want all of the, so you can see the last thing I loaded was the research company employees. We're showing them by name, and we want all of the employees to be shown by just one symbol. So let's change the employees symbol to, let's see, how about we make the employees blue? All right, and we'll make these a little bit bigger so you can see the size down here and how you can change the way that appears. Okay, so we've changed now all of the employees to blue so we can tell the employees from the different sites. Okay, so I'll say done. Now, here are the three things that I just loaded: the existing office, the proposed office, and the research company employees. So let's say that on the proposed office, you see if you click on that, then it opens these tools underneath that allow you to do additional things. So in this case, on the proposed office, I want to change the style. Now that means I just want the symbol to look different. So let's say on the proposed office, we want that to be, let's go with red. Now we're going to make that bigger than the employees so we can see it clearly. All right, so there is our proposed office up here. All right, we'll say okay and done. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the existing office. I'm going to change the style. We've got red and blue already on the map. I'm going to change the single symbol to, let's see, how about green? And we'll make that approximately the same size as the proposed office so we can see it well. All right, so now we have everything on the map. We've got our employees, we have our proposed location, and we have our existing location. Now, what we want to do is determine if we move, how that is going to impact people from a distance standpoint. So here's what we do. If we go into proposed office, as I said, there are things under here that will allow you to start doing some analysis. And you'll see the square here is called perform analysis. Once you click on that, then you see you have all of these different options to summarize data, to find location, to do data enrichment. So data enrichment simply means you can bring in demographic layers and put them on the map, such as population or growth or any of the median household income. You can analyze patterns here. And this is getting a little bit more advanced than what we're going to do today. But we are going to create this, at least this one map, where we will connect origins to destinations. All right. So if I select connect origins to destination. It really kind of makes sense as you go through it, because what you're going to do is you're going to connect your proposed office to your employees. Now you can do this a lot of different ways. The example that I'm going to show you is just a straight line distance, but you can use drive time. You can do that as trucking time if you want, walking, rural driving time. In this case, we're going to do straight line. And one of the things that I will tell you is when you start doing this type of analysis, it can take some time. Depending on how many points you have, there have been times when I've created maps where literally I would start the map and then I would go fix myself some lunch. So sometimes it can take a while. So the resulting layer is going to be research company, employees, DFW, but I'm going to also add a date because I've done this map before, so it will not let you create a map with the same name. If you are concerned about credits, you can see how many credits this is going to consume. And then once you are ready, you will hit run analysis. Now I'm not going to do that because, as I told you a minute ago, that takes a little bit of time. So what I'm going to do is I've gotten you all the way up to the point where you would run the analysis. But now I'm going to go back and show you what that analysis would look like once it is run. So first we're going to start with the existing office to employees. So once that runs, and it, as I said, it takes some time, then it starts drawing these lines. And this is straight line, as I said, this is not drive time, but now you can see here from the existing office, each employee and the straight line to them, which that's all fine and good, but what we need is some data here. So once you have your resulting layer, you can go in and you can get the data that is underneath that layer by simply checking looks like a spreadsheet, which is what it is. All right, and it'll list each employee and how long it is or how far it is that straight line distance. And it shows, in this case, it's showing kilometers and miles. So I'm going to go into the straight line distance miles, and I'm going to ask for the statistics behind that. So if I look at all of these different employees, that straight line, what does it tell me? So there's 90 values there. There's the sum, the minimum. Some only have about 3.5 miles. The maximum would be almost 20 miles. The average is 11.39. So if we're looking at existing, there 11.39 is the average. 11.39 miles, okay? So now that we have that information, we can then go run the exact same thing. So you would go back through that same process, but instead of doing it with the existing office, you would do it with the proposed office. So coming back up here, you would then go into the analysis under proposed office, go into analysis, go into proximity, because you're trying to determine the proximity from these offices to all of the employees, connect origins to destination. So you have proposed office to the research company. And then once again, you can do a straight line, you can do drive time, all of those different things. You'll set up your resulting layer name and then run the analysis. Okay, so we went through that twice, just hoping it'll stick with you a little bit. Okay, so now let's look to see what that resulting layer would be. So the proposed office to employees that I ran previously looks like this. So if I turn them both on, you'll see that we get lines going everywhere. And while it may be an interesting looking map, it doesn't really tell us anything. But if we go into the proposed office employees and we click on that, then it gives us the ability to share things if we wanted, or we can change the style. But in this case, once again, what we want is the data. So if we click on the table to show us the data, then, and we go back into the statistics on the straight line, the statistics here show, once again, 90 hour, ooh, somebody lives really close, about a third of a mile. 20 miles is the maximum, which is pretty similar to our previous example. But in this case, the average is a little bit over 8 miles. So we're almost 3.5 miles as an average closer with the new location than we would be with the old location. Okay, you think you could do that if you had to? It's a really interesting way to do different types of analysis. Here's another one that we did, and we won't go as into detail on this one, but this was a study that we did not too long ago. Let's see. Let me zoom out here. We kind of did the same thing, but in this case, we were looking at office supply stores and the closest DC that they had to them. And so we loaded all of the stores, loaded the DCs, and then we did pretty much the same thing that we did with the employees, except in that case, what we did was when we go in nearest office supply, we went into proximity, but instead of doing connect origins to destination, we went in to find nearest. So with each of these office supplies, we wanted to find the DC that was the nearest to them. And it's basically the same workflow, except as you're going through this, then you can limit it to each location, each store, how many locations are you open to looking at as far as which is nearest, if that makes sense. But you can do the same thing. It's the same process, the same general workflow, but in this case, you'll find the nearest. And so what we determined as we did this study is where there was a void and being able to reach these particular stores. So I'm going to go back and so those were stores that were not covered by a DC, you can see there. And so it gave us the ability then to look at where you might place an additional distribution center that could cover those within a given time frame. Maybe it's 5 hours, maybe it's 6 hours, whatever that is. Okay, let's see, there was one other that I wanted to show you on here. Oh, and looking at those employees that we were looking at a moment ago. You can also add buffers around your points. So in this case, let's say that we wanted to look at our employees, each of those, and we wanted to see within 3 miles or 5 miles, what is actually around them. So just another way of looking at the data. And the way that we did that was to just go into employees, go into this analysis, because that's where you go to do everything. And it, you know, all of these are kind of fun to play with. You can, you're not going to hurt anything by coming in and playing with all of these. But once again, if you wanted to create buffers around one of those, ArcGIS Online calls them buffers, business analyst calls them radius or drive times. So once again, the same workflow, you just come through here and say, around each of my research company employees, I want to enter a buffer size of 1 mile or 5 miles or whatever that may be, and then you can run the analysis. All right, so I'm going to go back, and before we wrap up, let me see how I'm doing on time. A lot of information. We're barely scratching the surface with ArcGIS Online, but I want you to just kind of have at least a high level understanding of some of the things that you can do in here.
Excuse me, Carol.
Yes.
Kevin has a question.
Sure.
Kevin?
Hi, Carol.
Hi, I could barely hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
On this analysis, can you do it by drive time rather than just straight line time?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you asked that, because let me show you this one that we have here, a potential DC to Walmart. I'll zoom out. I just turned that on my map, and it's over here in the Appalachian Mountains. So this is basically the same thing, but instead of doing the straight lines, we did drive times. So yes, you can.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, so let me turn that off, and then I'm going to go back to Dallas, and we're going to create real quickly a web app from this. So let's say that you wanted to share this map with someone, and you wanted them to be able to actually look at the data and let's see, there we go. I want to put everything on here. So I have several different layers on this map. And right now this looks like a lot, but I'm going to save this. And I'm going to save it as so this is just web app practice is really what it is. So once I save this map, then I'm going to clear everything off my map. This way we can start from where you might start if you were going to do something like this. All right. So I've saved my map. Now I want to create something where I could share it with people. So I cleared my map, everything, we have a fresh start here. I'm going to go into my content. Something's getting it. You know, we heard my husband sneezing a little while ago. Now my nose is itching like crazy. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, so here we are. Right now, this map is only shared with myself. No one else can see it. So I have gone into my content. This is where this is stored, and it is shared only with me. So let's say that I wanted to share this with a client or with someone else. I can change that and share it to everyone. Or if they're a member of the organization, you could share it with just the organization. All right, so I'm going to save that, and you'll see once Yep, we need to update all of the layers because it's not just the map, but each of the layers will also have to be updated to where they're shared. Now you'll see this map is still just shared with me, but the one above it, the one I just changed, is now publicly shared so anyone could see it if they knew the URL, right? So I'm going to click on this, the one that we just finished. And we'll let that load. And you'll see I can open it back in my map viewer, just like we were doing a few moments ago, but I want to create a web app out of it. So this just makes this something that is much more shareable and easy for someone who doesn't have to come back into ArcGIS and go through any of these motions. So we want a configurable app. And I will tell you that once you get to this point, normally, unless it's something pretty complex, I will just select the basic viewer. And I'll say create the web app. My title is fine, so I'll say done. Okay, so now it's taking me to the web app builder, which sounds scary, but it's really not, because you don't have to know code or anything to do any of this. So we'll give that just a moment to load. I know we're coming down to the end of our time, but I do want to get this last thing in. All right, so you see here that you have some options when it comes to how you want your map to look. What kind of theme do you want? So let's go to the theme. We can change the header color. So let's do something prettier than what's up there now. You can change the text color. I'm going to save this page. Then I'm going to go into options. You can see that you can either have a legend or not have a legend. You can have the measuring tool, the overview map. You can see all the different things that you can select or deselect. Is that a word, deselect? I think it is. You can also give the people who are viewing this different ways that they can search. So let's say that we are happy with the way this looks and we want to launch our web app. All right, so here's our web app. It has everything on it that we created in ArcGIS Online. We see here the layers. So we can then come in and select what we want to see and what we don't want to see. Oops. I actually brought over everything I had on that map, which is interesting. Okay, so if all you want to see, for example, are the existing Office to Research Company employees, then you can see that. If you want to see what that looks like with the proposed, if you want to see the buffers, so then whoever's viewing this then has control over what they see and what they don't see. And these are actually live, just like they were in ArcGIS Online. So you can click on them and get the information that you want. If you want to change the base map, you can do that while viewing the web app. You can print this out. You can also share this. So once you click share, then you can send this link to the person you want to be able to view it. You can also embed this in your website if you would prefer. So a lot of different options that you have here But very simply, now we have created a web app that someone can then view, someone outside the CCIM organization, if you want to share something with them. All right, let's kind of go back and talk about what we've covered. We started in business analyst. And we learned how we can add data from ArcGIS Online into Business Analyst by using the add data and the different ways that we could search there. Then we went into ArcGIS Online and we learned about how you can add data. Let me go back here into ArcGIS Online, how you can add data that from publicly available sources. Some of it is Esri data. Some of it is data that's brought in from different entities or different people, whether that is the Sacramento GIS department or whether it's something you created yourself. So now you know how to search that. Then we also did our own analysis where we brought points into the map and we saw how they related to one another to do an analysis of which is closer, which is better, which location is better fit for our employees. Then we went and created a web app. We also talked briefly about the Living Atlas, which is a part of the ArcGIS world, and some of the kind of data that you can find there. So that's a lot to cover in a little over an hour, but hopefully some of that will stick with you and you'll see some things that you can potentially use in your business. And one of the things to want to remember is that Site to Do Business Learning Center, where you can get help with some of the things we just talked about. You can also contact us. I would suggest anytime you have questions about anything that we covered today that you start with the Learning Center, see if you can figure it out. But don't hesitate to reach out to support@stdb.com as well. So Terry, that kind of does it for me. Are there any questions that we haven't been able to get to?
There are not.
There are.
It looks like everything has been covered, unless anybody else has a question. And I don't see any hands raised. So, Carol, thank you very much. It was a very enlightening hour, and we look forward to playing around with these maps.
All right, that sounds great. Please let us know how we can help you.
Good. A couple of reminders for everyone. First of all, we are the third in our series of Site to Do Business webinars. Will be in the same place, the same time next Wednesday. And the topic there is going to be prospecting tools. And that I assume, well, Carol, maybe you can just give us a little bit of an overview of prospecting tools.
Sure.
Kind of a teaser for next week.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm not sure if it's Alexis or Ben who's doing that, but one of the things that they will spend quite a bit of time on is our Database USA tool and the different ways that you can run business lists to prospect for perhaps a tenant, perhaps a client. You know, and how you can access this data, the different ways you can access it, how you can use it, and how you can even upload it back onto the map if that's something that you're so inclined to do. So they will certainly be going into Business Analyst and using some things in there, but Database USA will be the primary tool that will be used.
Terrific. Looking forward to that. Okay, a couple of other upcoming events. We hope you can join us tomorrow for mentoring. That's at 10 o'clock. We're going to be looking at the impact of the coronavirus on SBA loans. And it's pretty significant. So you'll want to join us for that. And then, of course, we have Deals and Drinks next Tuesday from 4 to 5. And once again, that will be a webinar, and we hope you can join us on that as well. So all of that having been said, we're going to end the session. If Serena and Carol want to stay on board, we can find out what may be going on with her mapping. Everyone else, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
I'll stay also. This is Aziz. I have the same issue.
Okay. All right. Happy to do that. All right, Serena, are you there?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Can you show your